Heavenly Father, we thank you. Hello, Sir Fovisi.
Hello, Father.
Malo, Mama nu yalam paptai.
We're back.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Laura.
Good to see everyone.
Hi, Gladys. Hai, Basta.
Halo, Pak. Halo,
Mana, Pak? Ya.
Apa yun?
Ya, menunya paptai.
You ready?
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Gladys.
Hi, Gladys.
Hi, ma'am.
Is Pastor Taala Gasologa part of the class? Did he
Yeah,
join last
yeah.
time?
Did you
He
hear
wasn't-
anything from? No?
He wasn't last week. He wasn't here on the, but hopefully he'll join in today.
Yeah, this will be his last chance. If he can't join today, he will not be allowed in the next lesson. Taala Gasologa. Okay, I'll put a note here.
I tried to call him, but didn't respond.
Okay, thank you.
Too busy. So.
Are you all, because I noticed the response of some of our students, Pastor Tusi, they were so excited that you're joining the class. Peter Usu.
Peter.
Yeah, they were so excited. They were so happy, you know, when they saw you joining.
Okay. Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Paul.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Okay, time check is 1:20 here in the Philippines, so it's 5:20 there. I'm gonna check your attendance now. You are allowed 15 minutes. You are allowed to be late for 15 minutes, but after that, you're considered absent. So let me check. By the way, I do have bonuses. Like if you have perfect attendance, I give a final 1 point to your final grade. So if your final grade is 98 or 99 plus 1, you have 100 for final grade. So those are for those who have perfect attendance. Okay, let me check. Mr. Amargo Fidelino Hardiniano. Pastor Apinero Osofua Josie. Not yet here. Pastor Pae Aso. Not yet here. Okay. Pastor Makapelu Poasa Ayuveli.
Yeah,
There you go.
Good evening.
Okay, good evening. Good skies there behind you. Okay. Hannah Toronan Kabangangan. Okay, Hannah is here. Saivel Joyce Rubianes is not yet here. Gladys May Castro is here. Pastor Lemalu Iolio Fiame.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Did I say your name right?
Yeah.
Almost there. Brian Mark Lopez is not yet here. Brother Abdiel Sanoy Loreto. Okay,
Hi,
Brother Abdiel. Good afternoon. Pastor Faamanu Peniata. Okay, Pastor's here. Pastor Elise Sefo. Hello, Pastor.
Hello.
I see Saivel has checked in. Okay, Pastor Gasaloga Taala. Not yet here. Pastor Ferretti Foa. Not yet here.
Not yet.
Pastor Luisa Vaifale. Not yet here. Pastor Yun Sang Hyun.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So we're waiting for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Six people. Now I noticed for the quiz, only 13, we're supposed to be 15 in the class, but only 13 took the quiz. Who among you here failed to take the quiz before it closed? Okay, I'll find out later. But congratulations to those who got it perfect. So many of you got a perfect score of 5. So that'll be recorded, your first quiz. Okay, let's start with a prayer. I'm going to ask Pastor Elise Sefo, can you lead us in an opening prayer?
Tato talo. Taftaile tuo matue fone fia onga. After my donganga ya te matou de ya mata la ufio. Ai foi la ufio vi ya la ufio. Le umalawa whamangaro I mātou I lo lawa swafa I su. Amen.
Amen. Wow. That would be Samoan, right?
Yes.
Yes.
How about New Zealand? Do they have other languages for the Kiwis, for those born in New Zealand?
That's Maori. Maori.
Maori, the Maori.
Maori,
Okay.
yeah. But we speak Samoan here and a little bit of Maori.
Oh, you can speak Maori too.
Kia ora.
Oh.
Kia
Okay. We're gonna start by reviewing your quiz. I'm gonna show you the rationale, the answers. Where was that? Okay, this one. Can you see it? So the answer to the Wikipedia quiz.
I cannot see it, ma'am.
Okay, how about the others? Can you see it?
Yeah.
Coming up.
There you go. Maybe it just needs time. There's
Yes,
been problems with the internet this afternoon. Okay, first one. Wait, let me spotlight. Okay, so first one, Wikipedia is a primary source. And number two, Wikipedia is a secondary source. It's false. Okay, why is it false? Because Wikipedia is a tertiary source. Do you understand what tertiary means? It's an online open source encyclopedia that is a distillation and a collection of both primary and secondary sources. Okay, it's good for getting an overview of the subject. So it's tertiary, meaning third. You know, when it comes to sources, we always prioritize primary sources because these are evidence. Secondary source is like an interpretation of the primary source, so this is good too. But tertiary sources are the last in line because these are actually combination. And the thing about wikis is we can actually add our input, we can edit it. So it's not as reliable as a primary and a secondary source. Now, does that mean you cannot use Wikipedia? You can use Wikipedia for yourself. Okay, because honestly, the first thing you do is Google things, right? And then Wikipedia appears. But that's just for you. Do not use it. Do not use it as evidence to your claim because you have to look for the primary or the secondary source. Okay, the tertiary source is the weakest evidence. Okay, so number 1 and 2 is false. Next, 3, 4, 5. Wikipedia is a reliable source for your paper. Again, it's false. It's actually the weakest because it's a tertiary source. Wikipedia should be cited in your paper. False. It should not appear in the footnotes, nor in the bibliography. Okay, and wikis are created and edited by many contributors. That's true. So Wikipedia uses an open editing model. Anyone may contribute by writing or editing an article, which means articles can vary in quality. Some are very good, some are not. So it's very hard. You have to really evaluate first. So corrections to poor quality or incorrect information in a Wikipedia may take time. So it's not a reliable source as a source for a research paper. So again, you can use it if you want to read quickly, you know, if just for you, but you will not write it in your paper. It's not accepted here in APTS. Some professors allow it, but our academic dean, starting from Dr. K. Fountain, has announced that you are not allowed to put Wikipedia in the footnotes or bibliography. So do not use it as a source. Okay? So only for you. If you want to read through because it's really quick, you know, easy access, go ahead, but do not consider it as a reliable source. Always go to the primary and secondary sources. Okay? Okay, I hope you're not sad because you're a fan of Wikipedia. I'm a fan too, I just don't use it for the paper. Okay, in one sentence, what is Wikipedia? It is an online editable encyclopedia. And the word editable or revisable, in a way, it tells us it's not reliable because anyone can edit. And that person may not be a scholar, may not be an authority in that subject, may just have read from an encyclopedia or something. So in fairness to Wikipedia, it has improved. You know, they're giving us really good information. It's just that it needs time. You know, you need to evaluate it unless it becomes a closed source encyclopedia. But since it is an open source encyclopedia, it's really not good for academic study. Okay? Questions about Wikipedia? Okay, so please don't include it in your paper. All right. Are we all here now? Let me just check again. Louisa is here. I can see her. Brian is here. I'm still waiting for Josie. Josie's not yet here. And Pae. And Ferretti. Ferretti is here? Not yet. Not yet. Okay, so hopefully they join us in time. Questions about the quiz? No question. Okay. Now we're gonna discuss how to do book reviews, reaction papers, and reflection papers. We're just gonna get this out of the way in case you get, you have requirements in your other classes, how to write the book review, a reaction paper, a reflection paper, or a journal review, a critique paper. So these are common requirements in APTS. So let's just discuss them one by one. Very easy. Okay. Let's start with how to write a book review. Let me see if I can see myself. Okay, there you go. So here are some considerations and formatting that we should remember. Book reviews typically evaluate recently written works. They offer a brief description of the text's key points and often provide a short appraisal of the strengths and weaknesses of the work. So what is the difference between a book review and a book report? So a book report simply describes what happens in a book, and it's focused on descriptions. While a book review gives the readers an overview of the book, it can be around 500 to 700 words. It summarizes and evaluates a book's content and the author's technique. A book review is similar to a book critique. But of course, when it comes to book critique, it's more critical. Okay, there's more engaging of sources. There's more creative agreement or creative disagreement. But basically, they have the same format. So here's the format. First, you start with preliminaries. I will show you a sample book review later, but you have to state the title of the book, author, place of publication, publisher, date of publication, and the number of pages using the Turabian bibliography format. Second is the first paragraph is an introduction of the book. Okay, you give the reader a preview of the review. You establish a background. Of course, remember your audience. Remember that your audience has not read the work, and with this in mind, give the audience a hint of the main point of the book. So your introduction gives us the main point of the book in as little as one paragraph, okay? So after you give the introduction, then you give background information. So the background information of the book is provided in order to set out criteria in judging a book. This includes the author's basic information, such as the era in which he wrote the book or how it relates to his life experience. So you can actually introduce the author as well. So first paragraph, introduction, and then background of the book or background of the author, then you summarize. 40% of the paper must be summary, okay? Now, in summary, since it's only 40%, deal only with the most pressing issues in the book, okay? You will not be able to cover every character or idea. Summarize the main points. Don't forget to indicate the page you got the idea, if it is paraphrased or quoted. So in a book review, typically we have 3 to 5 pages book review. So always just divide it into, let's say, 10% introduction and background, 40% summary, and then the evaluation is 50%, okay? So 5% in introduction and background, 40% summary, 50% evaluation. So that's already 90%. I don't, am I right? 95%, okay? So 50% of the paper must include the following. Identify the author's point of view. Identify whether or not the book has obtained its objective, or the particular points that the author succeeded or failed to convince the reader. Include analysis of the book's key themes, and identify sources used by the author. Did he use primary source, secondary source, or a combination of both? If you are writing a critique, okay, so sometimes your teachers say you will write a book critique. It's the same format of book review, but the evaluation is deeper. You have to present agreement, disagreement. This author is quoting this person, but I think it's weak or it's strong. You know, so you really critique. You present a critique of the author's presentation of ideas, and then tell your readers, did the author achieve his purpose for writing the book, and so on. So in a book critique, in the evaluation part, you are more critical. Okay, you have to engage really the author. And then lastly, the last 5% to make it 100% is the feedback, and later on the recommendation. So in step 6 feedback, you can use first person point of view. You can say I think, you know, I recommend. So here you explain whether you like or dislike the book. You know, I like the book, or I don't like it. You know, identify your favorite or least favorite portions. You know, the critical analysis or the opinion made by the student in certain points of the book should be justified here. Okay, so you can just say, personally, I just think that the author was saying too many things, you know. So you can just be honest here if you're in your feedback. And the recommendation, the last sentence is just a conclusion. I recommend this to other students of seminaries, or I recommend this to other ministers, other pastors who need to learn about this and that, you know. So you make a recommendation of the book to others. So let's look at an example of a book review. Let me pull it up. I don't have it, just a sec. I'm gonna show you just one. This one is more of a critique. So something I wrote for the AJPS, but I think you need the book review. Where is it? Okay, this one. Sorry, just a second. It has not appeared yet. Oh, sorry, reaction paper, not this one. Okay, let's try this one. Okay, see the first part, if you can see it, can you see it now? Okay, the first part is the preliminary. Okay, this is how a preliminary looks like. It's a bibliographic information of the book. Okay, so the last name of the author, the first name of the author, period. Then the title of the book, in this case, the book's title is Mangoes or Bananas, The Quest for an Authentic Asian Christian Theology. And it is italicized. Then period. And then the series title is Regnum Studies in Mission, period. And then the place of publication, Oxford, England, colon. The publisher is Regnum International, comma, the date of publication, 1997. Okay, so the first thing you do is put the bibliographic information here. If you notice, after the cover page, this is the cover page. After the cover page, there's at least 2 inches here. At least 2 inches here. So the bibliographic information starts from here. And then after the bibliographic information, the first paragraph is introduction, right? You introduce in one line what the book is about. It's like a hook, you know, for a reader who has not read the book yet. Once they read the first slide, it's like, okay, this is like the thesis, the main point. Okay, so the first paragraph, if you look at this one, is just basically 1 or 2 sentences, is the introduction of the book. After that, you're going to give background information. So Hua Yung is the author of the book, Mangoes or Bananas. So here, the student, by the way, this is a student wrote this book review, so I'm just getting an example of what he did. So Hua Yung is the author, and so the student introduced Hua Yung in the book that he wrote. And if you notice here, he included that he is a minister, a bishop of a Methodist church. He's from Malaysia. He has dealt with missiology and Christianity in the Asian context. So you give a background of the author so that the readers will understand where the author is coming from, okay, why he can write such a book, okay? And then notice here, normally in a book review, we don't have footnotes. But in this case, the student wanted to give us a background information about the author that was not found in the book. So he looked from another source. And so this is like the source he used to help us understand who Hua Yung is. And in that case, if you're introducing a new source, you have to footnote it, okay? But if you got the information about the author from the book, then you just write where you got it from. In this case, the student just got it from the preface of the book. So if that's the case, you just put a parenthesis, preface, parenthesis, period. So this is now his introduction of the author. Okay, so first preliminary information, the bibliography, then an introduction of the book, then background information about the author, especially, or about the book project. And then the next page is now the summary. Okay, so the summary is only 40% of the paper. Now in the summary here, so he summarized the key points of the book. Every time he quotes from the book or paraphrases from the book or an idea comes from the book, you put the page number. Where did you get the quotation? So in this case, you don't need to footnote because it just comes from the book and you are reviewing that book. You don't need to footnote. You just place in text the page number in a parenthesis. So in this case, he quoted unengaged and then he put the page number where he got that word. So parenthesis, page 5, parenthesis, close. Okay, same here. He got this idea from the book. He got it from pages 8 to 9. Okay, after the summary, then he began the evaluation. So he evaluated the kind of book that Mangoes and Bananas is all about. And he sees here that it's an excellent piece of literary work, you know, and so on. Just give your evaluation. After he evaluated it, the next one is now the feedback. So remember, the evaluation is 50%, so it should be a bit longer. You try really to point out the good, the bad, the points, the valid points that the author made. Do you agree? Do you disagree? You know, so try to critique it as best as you can. Every time you quote, like this one, you put the page number. And then you give a feedback. The feedback is your personal feedback. You can use I. So this one is the student's feedback. And then he ended it with a recommendation. I highly recommend that a copy of this book be read. And if possible, be owned by pastors, missionaries, Bible school and seminary students and teachers, and even theologians. So just that. So this is the ending. Okay? All right. So do you understand the book review? Now there's a problem here. There should be a page number. The page number for the first page, so the cover page has no page number. The first page number should be here, bottom, page 1. The second to third pages or second pages onward should be up, center top. Okay? Right. So that's for a book review. Okay, do you have any questions about the book review?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
For the sample of the book review, is there any way we can look at it as a sample and then as we start to do our task, is there any way we can look at it and do it as a sample so I can follow it and the one you just give it to us?
Oh yeah. It's if you look at your Moodle, so I'm gonna show your Moodle here. There it is, model paper, book review. You can download this.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. By the way,
Yeah.
your book review is the craft of research, right?
Yes.
So you have to give the correct bibliographic information for the craft of research. And I'm gonna give you a tip. If you receive the new student orientation manual, it's there.
Thank
You can just copy it. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Luisa? Oh, I'm sorry. We can't hear you. Alt A to unmute. No, you can't. Sorry. Maybe you can type in your question. Okay, while we're waiting for Luisa's question, does anyone else have a question here? I know you all have book reviews, yes?
Yes, ma'am. Are you gonna give us the some information in detail how to do book review, such as the size of font size, and space between sentences?
Well, for all AP test papers, just use either Times New Roman, Times New Roman size 12, and double space.
Double space.
Yeah, that's it. And then one margin, one inch margin. So that's for all papers, huh? It's like Times New Roman size 12, and then double space. For footnotes is size 11. Then single space footnotes.
Single space.
Actually, we're going to discuss later on Turabian format. So you will see the formatting requirements.
Okay.
Luisa, were you able to type your question? You can type it in the chat box so we can read it. Yes, I think Brother Fidel has a question. Okay, good.
So the book we're going to review, the Craft of Research fourth edition. Is that right?
Edition number 4.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are we
Can
clear?
I ask a question?
Yes.
Can I ask you a question regarding the what do you call the book that the review is going to be? I come across with some confusions my own readings in regards of the writers, because it says in the front page, in the cover page, that there are 4 writers there. But when I go through it appears it's only 2 writers. It's been pointed in the one of the pages. So that's why I'm asking if you just, you know, as I said, I've already got the book. So as I found out that on the cover page, the front page, 4 writers were mentioned there, 4 or 5, I think.
5.
5. But when I read through the book itself, it appears that 2 were being pointed. They are the work of 2 writers.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the original writers are 3. That's Booth, Colum, and Williams. Then the latest 2, the latest additions are Bishop and Fitzgerald. So the reason these 2 were introduced is because they're the latest writers. The first 3 are dead. They all died. So in the 2005, 2011, and 2008 respectively. So that's why they were introduced, the next 2. These are the current living writers. So they didn't remove the dead authors. You know, in respect to them, they started this, but they introduced the 2 new ones.
So what you say is it's all right if we bring the 5 in?
All 5. You have to include all 5. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, yes, Luisa, in a book review, the bibliography is at the top of the paper. It's what we call preliminary information, and you always put it on top. Now, let me show you an example of a book review published in a journal. Okay, this one, this is for the AJPS. Of course, you're not going to follow this because they put the pricing. Okay, so the only difference between our paper and those that are being published is that we don't put the price. They put $30, you know. So in your book review, the bibliography should be on top. That. Okay, so only for book review, but the other papers, of course, it's in the bibliography. Okay, any more? Okay, so looking forward to reading your book reviews. You'll be doing book reviews for all classes in APTS. All classes require a book review, except for languages, of course. Okay, now let's go to, these are not common, but sometimes some teachers ask you to write papers like this. These are reflection papers and reaction papers. What's the difference, right? So, very easy. Reflection papers have the same format as book reviews, but the content is more personal and subjective. So a book review is actually objective. You use the 3rd-person point of view, except for the feedback and recommendation, the last portion. In a reflection paper, you are allowed to use a 1st-person point of view. I feel, I think, you know. Now, they still have to maintain an academic tone. And when you say academic tone, please use active voice, not passive voice. Okay? Please use neutral language, not cool language. Oh man, it's so cool. Hi, hi guys, like that. You can't use that in an academic paper. And then it must be coherent and clear. So the development of your ideas should still be there. Okay, even if it is subjective, it is a reflection paper. So here are some tips in reflective writing. Identify the main theme or themes of the book or the experience. Because sometimes they will ask you to write a reflection of the book instead of a review, instead of a critique, okay? Or they ask you to join a seminar and they will ask you to write a reflection about the seminar, okay? So you identify first the main theme of the book or the experience. Write down materials or insights that stand out in your mind. Identify how your subjective values, experiences, and beliefs affect your response. And don't forget, in every paper that you write, even a reflection paper, you must have only one thesis statement. Okay? So, for example, your insight, this is your insight. Christian music as a means to expressing your faith in God. This is your personal response. I felt inspired and challenged by that statement. So what factors affected your response? Personally, you want to be a singer. You have a secret dream of becoming a singer and songwriter. So then here's a sample paragraph that you could write. In the book, the author said that Christian music was her means to express her faith in God. Footnote, okay, because you got it from the book. I felt inspired and challenged by that statement because I too feel like music is my faith expression. It is my secret dream to become a Christian singer and songwriter. So this author's statement inspires me and challenges me to pursue my dream. All right, so see, it is a reflection, but it's still academic in tone. All right, so that is a reflection paper. And just so you know, that's my reflection. It's my secret dream to be a singer and songwriter. Just kidding. Okay, so this is an example of a reflection paper. Here's the format. First, introduction. So write your initial expectation of the assignment, book, or event, and then end the introduction with your thesis statement. A thesis statement summarizes your entire reflection in one statement. Okay, a thesis statement summarizes the entire paper in one sentence. Okay, so that's at the end of your introduction, you should have a thesis statement. So for example, you can say, in this reading or in this experience, I learned that. Okay. Afterwards should be the body of the paper. So write out in complete sentences your pre-charted insights and reflections. Each paragraph must only have one topic or insight, and explain how you arrived at your reflection or insights. And then finally, end the paper with a summary of your overall insight, restate your thesis statement or your major reflection, and for a conclusion, never introduce a new idea. Okay, so that's for reflection paper. Okay, questions about the reflection paper? Okay, no. Now let's move on to reaction papers. Oh, yes?
Yes, I
So-
got a question, please.
Yes, was there a question?
Yes, please, Laura. Is there any way you can give the example of the thesis statement, please?
Well, a thesis statement, okay, later I'll show you a model, an example of a reflection paper, okay? But a thesis statement is simply the main idea of the entire paper. If you could summarize the entire paper in one sentence, that's your thesis statement. Okay? So for example, earlier, for Hua-yung, the book review earlier, so the thesis statement is, Hua-yung promotes an Asian Christian theology, and that he actually encourages all Asians to theologize from their own setting. Okay, so that is the main point of the book. Okay, so you can give one sentence that summarizes the entire book, which is possible. Okay, any more questions? All right, so let's go now to the reaction paper. So reaction papers are response papers to books, movies, events, or experiences. They have same format as book reviews, but they include a personal reaction to assignment. So the use of personal pronouns are allowed, but again, academic and coherence must still be maintained. There are only two parts to a reaction paper. First is the summary. Of course, you begin with the preliminary information, the bibliography still, and then you summarize the book or the assignment. And then part two is your reaction. So there are two reactions, positive or negative. Okay, so that's for reaction paper. So here are tips in summarizing a reaction paper. So highlight main points and key supporting points. Use direct quotations from the work to illustrate important ideas. Give readers a general sense of all key aspects of the original work. Do not discuss in great detail any single aspect of the work. Keep the summary objective and factual. Do not include in the first part of the paper your personal reaction. Okay? The subjective impression will be the second part, which is the positive and negative reaction. So the first part, the summary, introduction, they're all third person point of view. The second part, which is your reaction, then you can use first person point of view. Now, remember, ask yourself, how is the assigned work related to ideas and concerns discussed in the course for which you are preparing the paper? For example, what points made in the course textbook, class discussion, or lectures are treated more fully in the work? How is the material related to your life experiences, feelings, and ideas? For instance, what emotions did the work arouse in you? Did the work increase your understanding of a particular issue? Did it change your perspective in any way? And then evaluate the merit of the work, the importance of its points, its accuracy, completeness, organization, and so on. I'm going to show you an example of a reflection paper and a reaction paper from a student. Okay, so a student wrote this. So it's not perfect, but you get the gist, okay, of what a reflection paper and a reaction paper looks like. This one is the reaction paper. Can you see it? Now, please take note of the format. The first part is the cover page. The cover page should be what we call headline capitalization. Only the first letters are capitalized. We used to follow the format where everything is capitalized, but now in Thurabian 9th edition, they have done away with that. Now they follow the headline capitalization. So this is the correct format of a cover page, okay? The cover page must only use headline capitalization. So only the first letters are capitalized. And then, of course, the title is reaction paper. A paper submitted to the name of your professor in partial fulfillment of the requirements of, let's say, Res 536 Research Methods 1. Okay, so you write the course code and course name by your name, Baguio City, Philippines, and then the date submitted. So this is the cover page. Next. So now, this is a reaction paper for a publication. So faculty publication paper number 8. So the first part of a reaction paper is the bibliography. So in the bibliography, we follow Thurabian. So first is the last name of the author, comma, first name of the author, and then the title of the publication. Since it's a publication or a journal, you do not italicize the name of the article. You have to put it in quotation marks like this, and then parenthesis, the date, period. Then you italicize the publication name. So here is faculty publications. That's the name of the, let's say, the journal. And then paper number 8. Okay, so this is the bibliographic information. The next thing is the summary. So the summary, this is what we call level 1 heading. For level 1 heading, it should be headline capitalization. Only the first letter is capitalized, and then we put it, it's in bold format. Now, the first paragraph here should be an introduction. So you introduce the paper. Jerry Mascala's article, The Message of God's People in the Old Testament, primarily talks about one particular subject, God. In 3 sections, he discussed essential pieces of information regarding the message of God's people as found in the Old Testament. Now, earlier you asked me what is an example of a thesis statement. This is an example. Basically, he summarized the entire book in 1 sentence. Okay, in 3 sections, he discussed essential pieces of information regarding the message of God's people as found in the Old Testament. Okay, so in the introduction part, you end it with the thesis statement. Then after the introduction, now this is not a book review. You don't need to introduce the author. You go directly to the summary. Okay, so you summarize the book. So in this case, so the student summarized the book. Don't forget that to put page numbers if necessary. After he summarized the book, then he began the reaction. So then he started with the positive reaction. This is first line, level 1 heading, so bold. So this is his positive reaction to the book. You notice that he used now the pronoun I. So when it comes to the reaction part, you can use personal pronouns, okay, because it's your reaction. Next, after the positive reaction, he began with the negative reactions. Okay, so he said, alongside the positive comments I have towards this article, blah, blah, blah. And that's it. You end it with that. Okay, so positive and negative reaction. Notice the page numbers. The first page here, the second pages onward should be on top. I will be teaching you how to do this, how to insert page numbers. In fact, I will make a tutorial video how to do this because students always ask me how to insert page numbers. So your cover page does not have a page number. The first page page number should be at the bottom center. Second, third, fourth pages onward should be at the top center, like that. Okay. So this is an example of a reaction paper. Okay, do you have questions? How about a reflection paper? So you saw the reaction paper. Let's try the reflection paper. Let's see if I can find it now. In some cases, your teacher will only ask you to write one-page assignment, a one-page paper or one-page reflection paper. If it's one-page assignment, you don't need a cover page. This is enough. Okay? Can you see it? Just write submitted to, submitted by, course, assignment date. This is the format for a one-page assignment. This is an example of a one-page reflection paper. Okay, so anyway, it's just one page. The student just gave his insights about a reading, and the teacher said, you just write one page, and he did. Okay. So this is a one-page reflection paper. Do you have any questions about reflection paper or one-page assignments? I did send you the format, the example in your chat box. Sorry, in your Moodle. Here you go. So this is an example of the book review, one-page reflection paper, and reaction paper. Okay, so these are examples that you can use. By the way, it's not perfect. The examples given, a student like you gave that, and but the student got an A, you know. So those are one of the best examples that I can give you on how to do reaction papers and reflection papers later on when other teachers, I don't require you to do that. I'm just showing you how to do it so that when other teachers ask you, you already have an idea. Yes? Alt A, yeah.
Can I ask a question, Laura?
Okay, Brother Abdiel first. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the reaction and reflection paper. In my mind, they are almost the same or synonymous. So except for the format, can you please distinguish the two? Because it's all it's the same as how you reflect or react paper or to a certain event.
Reaction paper is more critical. So for example, I'm going to show you, I think I should read to you so you can see the difference here. So this paper, reaction paper, is about a reading written by Giri Moscala. It's an Old Testament reading. Let's read his positive reaction. Okay, he says, after having read the article, I singled out a few points which I found interestingly positive and agreeable. One is about the Old Testament people's assumption of God's existence. Some people argue that God does not exist and that the Bible does not prove that he does. This article strongly negates the former and agrees with the latter by precisely implying that the people of the Old Testament didn't have to prove that God exists. Rather, they already assume that he does, which is true. Theologically speaking, the Bible assumes the existence of God. So indeed, the characters mentioned in the Old Testament did not even question whether God is true or not. But most of them immediately recognized him, especially whenever he spoke to them. The assumption of this truth is of great significance, for it definitely proclaims the validity of the faith we have for the God whom we believe in. After commendable point in these articles, Moscala's explanation about the Sabbath, he precisely discussed that the first Sabbath was also the first full day of man on earth, and so on. Okay, this is his positive reaction. Let's go to the negative reaction. Alongside the positive comments I have towards this article, there are a few points of discussion which I consider are areas of concern. Moscala seemed to be out of context when he quoted Eve's statement after giving birth to Seth in Genesis 4:1. The argument is not on his personal translation of the text, which is a possible translation of the original Hebrew text when done literally, but on his assumption that according to her, Eve's understanding, the Messiah would be divine. His usage of this particular passage appears to be irrelevant. Eve was obviously talking about the birth of her third son. Hence, it is not appropriate to assume that her statement was pertaining to her understanding about the divinity of the coming Messiah. Okay, so that would be his negative reaction. What did you notice? You know, he was kind of critical. This is positive. The point here is that, you know, there's an assumption of the existence of God, and you can see that Moscala pointed it out clearly. The negative, Moscala is overly interpreting the text. Okay, so the positive, negative reactions are actually critical. Positive and negative reactions. They're not just, oh, I think it's nice. I think what he said touched my heart. No, not like that. Okay, it's still academic. So he engaged with the writing. He said, oh, I agree with this, but this one is a bit a misinterpretation of this passage, and so on. So that would be the difference. For reflection paper, let's read the reflection paper. Okay, this one is about leadership. So he says here, there are many significant leadership insights that can be derived from the Old Testament that I think would be very helpful guide as I walk on the road toward becoming a leader. First, as a leader, it is important to be able to lead oneself. Okay, so if you notice, it's personal. What I learned from here, how that affects me, and so on. Okay, so I don't have time to read everything here, but you can read that later on. So that would be the difference between a reflection paper and a reaction paper. Do not be misled by the term reaction. In the academic world, a reaction paper is a critical reaction paper. You are to really nitpick. You know, this statement he said, I think it's irrelevant, you know? And so you have to nitpick what the author was saying, what you read, or what you experienced. Okay, now, in what events, because earlier it says there, you do a reaction paper of a book or an experience, right? So we only ask you to do a reaction paper of an experience if it is, let's say, a lectureship. So last year, Ben Witherington III came here, and we asked our students to do a reflection or a reaction paper of Ben Witherington is the top evangelical New Testament scholar. And so he came here and you listen to his teachings and you have to give a reaction. And for example, Ben Witherington proposes that the writer of the Gospel of John is Lazarus. And we're like, what? We were all reacting. And so most of our students wrote a reaction to that, defending the stance that it is the Apostle John, not Lazarus, and so on. Okay, so that's the kind of reaction we're asking. Were you there when Ben Witherington presented the paper here? Oh, none of you, huh? It's very good. Okay, any more questions?
We heard about it.
Oh, you heard? People was like, Lazarus is the author of John?
Controversial.
Yes. Oh, sorry. For one page, actually, everything is supposed to be double spaced. Saival asked if it's single space or double space. Everything is supposed to be double spaced, except when your teacher says it should be single spaced. Okay, so the teacher always wins. I can give, this is like the default format. I'm giving you the default format. But if your teacher tells you you have to follow him, you follow him. Okay. Okay, any more questions? Oh, the reaction paper is a different type of paper. So for Louisa, sometimes your teacher will ask you to write a book review or a journal article review. They have the same format. The reaction paper is a different type of paper, a different assignment. The reflection paper is another type of paper or another assignment that your teacher might in the future ask you to do. So I'm not going to require you to do it. I will just ask you to write one book review. In case your teacher asks you to do it, at least you're ready. Huh? You know what to do. This is the default format. Okay, any more? Times New Roman, 12, size 12, double space.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, can we use normal in the word? What's normal? Or the no spacing?
In the word, in the word file, ma'am.
Word file, normal. Sorry, I don't understand.
In the format, ma'am, what format should we use?
Ah, you mean
Normal
font?
or
I'm not so good at Word. Is this Microsoft Word? Is it a question
yes,
for Microsoft?
yes.
So, wait. Normal. This one.
Normal, no spacing.
Yeah, just use normal and then edit it to double space later on. I don't use this automatic formatting because sometimes you have to edit. Yeah. So I'd rather do it manually, you know. Actually, even with Turabian, there's an app called Zotero. You know, with Zotero, they help you automatically cite in Turabian. But there have been inconsistencies and it's very hard to edit when it is automatic. It's better to do it manually. And the more you do it manually, the more you memorize it, that you can do it while sleeping. Okay, any more questions? Reflection, reaction paper, so easy, right? Except that when your teacher tells you to critique, you have to critique. Okay, meaning you really dig deep. And you really nitpick, not because you're trying to say that, oh, he's wrong. Critique is not bad, it's positive. You're trying to understand it deeper and pointing out areas that you might agree or you might disagree. For annotated bibliography, we are going to discuss that this Friday, because you are going to do your research reading. And so I will teach you how to do an annotated bibliography.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to give you a short break, 5 minutes, and then we're going to discuss plagiarism and Turabian, so the formatting and so on. If you have no more questions, let's have coffee.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Số cậy này.
Wow.
Cái leo cái đâu đi.
Meidän kusina on ihan näin muualla kusina. Amazon. Ihan niin. Ja kirkko. Niillä on näin. Solo pagskaki. Pagskaki. Vamos também. Não foi verídico.
Ah, muy.
Huh?
Can't hear me, yeah.
No.
Hi.
Hello, you guys.
Hi.
Did you already start reading a book?
So Pastor Pae is absent and Pastor Ferretti is absent, right? And then I guess Pastor Taala Gasologa will not be able to join the class. So I've removed him from the list. All right. Did everyone get a cup of coffee, snacks? You guys can eat.
Can you
No.
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now, Louisa.
Okay. Thank you.
You know, if you are here in our classroom, you could still eat. You know, it was really okay for us.
Yeah. Thank
Now,
you.
I would like to update you on something. I forgot to share this earlier. I did upload in your Moodle a list of library sources. Did you see that? Did you check it out? You know, the list of library sources, because you guys are out there. Now, we updated the list. So I actually deleted the one I uploaded in the Moodle and I replaced it with an updated form, the one revised as of June 29. Why? Because they changed the EBSCO password. So we renewed our license and the password was changed. So these are our online sources. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are very important. So for EBSCO, this is now the new password. Okay, so I uploaded this in the Moodle. You just download the file and you will be able to get the EBSCO password.
They sent us they also sent us a message.
An email. Okay, good. Now for ProQuest, this is a new one. ProQuest is a database for theses, dissertations, and some journals. This is did they send you this link? They did? All of you got it? So it's really good. So you just click the link. For now, it's a free trial. Our paid subscription will start on August 1. So while waiting for that to take effect, they gave us a free trial. We can use it for free. You just click this link. This is the APTS link. And of course, the global DTL is there. Okay? So that's it for our library update. Okay, anything I might have forgotten? No? Okay, we'll go now to our lesson. This one is a bit meticulous. I'm gonna ask you to memorize Turabian, but you have to be aware, you have to know everything about Turabian because you're gonna be writing from this style from today onwards. For the next 3 years. Depends on how long you'll study your master's. But let's begin first with, again, avoiding plagiarism. This is a review for most of you who already went through the plagiarism seminar. So plagiarism is presenting someone else's work or ideas as your own with or without their consent by incorporating it into your work without full acknowledgement. So when you include in your paper an idea, a statement that came from someone else, especially from a book, something that's already published, that's plagiarism, and that's not allowed. What are the forms of plagiarism? Verbatim, word for word quotation without clear acknowledgement. So if you quote, or actually you copy someone else's words and you did not acknowledge that person, you did not put it in quotation marks, no footnote, no reference, that is cheating. Okay, so quotations must always be identified as such by the use of either quotation marks or indentation and with full referencing of the sources cited. It must always be apparent to the reader which parts are your own independent work and where you have drawn on someone else's ideas and language. Another form of plagiarism is cutting and pasting from the internet without clear acknowledgement. So information derived from the internet must be adequately referenced and included in the bibliography. It is important to evaluate carefully all material found on the internet as it is less likely to have been through the same process of scholarly peer review as published sources. So when you are using sources, actually number one are journals. Journal article, why? Peer reviewed. Before they were published, they were reviewed by scholars of the field, of that field, before they can be published. You know, it went through rigorous process of reading and critique and revising until it's published. Another is the books. Okay, so books are good sources because of course they follow publishers publication rules and copyright rules and so on. Archives are good. Primary sources like interviews, surveys, those are good. As we talked about earlier, internet sources have to be evaluated if they are primary sources, secondary sources, if they are authoritative. Wikipedia is a tertiary source, which we talked about earlier, so it's at the low level of priority when it comes to choosing sources. So you have to assess if the material you found on the internet is reliable. Okay. Another form of plagiarism is paraphrasing. Oh, so you paraphrase the work of others to make it appear as if it's yours. Or you use synonyms, you know, you change the words to this, different words but with the same meaning. So that is still plagiarism. Paraphrasing the work of others by altering a few words and changing their order, or by closely following the structure of their argument, is plagiarism if you do not give due acknowledgement. So you can paraphrase, but you have to cite, okay? You have to reference. You acknowledge the author whose work you are using. Another form of plagiarism is collusion. So this can involve unauthorized collaboration between students. You collude with each other. Failure to attribute assistance received, or failure to follow precisely regulations on group work projects. It is your responsibility to ensure that you are entirely clear about the extent of collaboration permitted and which parts of the work must be your own. Inaccurate citation. So it's important to cite correctly according to the conventions of your discipline. If you cannot gain access to a primary source, you must make it clear in your citation. Okay, for example, the book you read quoted someone else. Okay, so for example, this author quoted from this person, but you cannot locate the original quote, the original source. So you just make sure that you write in your citation, this author quoted this author. Okay, so for example there, Bradshaw D, that's the author, title of the book, discussed in Wilson E, title of the book. Okay, so you notice that the person cited the secondary source, but he made it clear that the secondary source also quoted or cited or discussed the primary source. So you have to be able to include that in your citation. Another form of plagiarism is auto-plagiarism. You must not, meaning self-plagiarize, you plagiarize yourself, okay? That's auto-plagiarism. You must not submit work for assessment that you have already submitted, partially or in full, either for your current course or for another qualification of this or any other university, unless this is specifically provided for in the special regulations for your course. For example, you have one teacher who asks you to do a book review, and then the next trimester, another teacher asks you to do a book review of the same book that you did last trimester. Even if you are the same person, it's the same book, but you need to do a book review for two different teachers. You cannot submit the same paper to two teachers. You understand? That's self-plagiarism. The moment you submit a paper to a teacher, you cannot use that to submit to this teacher. We had two instances of that last trimester. So he auto-plagiarized. He submitted the same paper to two different teachers. It was the same book. I understand his point. He said, it's the same book. I'm the same person. But that's the rule. You cannot submit the same paper to two different teachers. You just do another book review, another perspective, okay? Another instance, the person wrote a paper for a different teacher. Now he took 20% of that paper and put it in the new paper that he submitted to another teacher. Unfortunately, and I really could not understand how that new teacher found out, suddenly emailed the student, is this portion from another paper? And it's true. And of course, the student is a pastor and said yes, because he didn't know. It was unintentional on his part. You have to give credit to him. He did not know that that was wrong. So he said, yes, I got it. And he was very honest. I got it from this paper. I just took it from there and put it here because it's the same discussion. You know, he was very honest. And the teacher says, you know, I can fail you for this. This is not allowed. But actually, when he came to the office, I was thinking, how did he find out? And even the student said, I don't know. I said, you know, sometimes the Holy Spirit speaks to our professors. He was able to identify which portion was not, you know, original. And so, and he was a graduating student. Fortunately, the teacher was merciful and said, if you give me, if you rewrite, I will give you a chance. And so he did not fail. He had a low grade, but he did not fail the class and he was able to graduate. Okay, so you cannot do that. You cannot submit the same paper to two different teachers, and you cannot get a portion of that another paper and put it in a new paper and submit it to a teacher. Okay, you cannot do that. I think I have a chat here.
Oh, so it must be two different book reviews, eh?
Yes, even if
No
it's the
copy.
same book. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is this? Can I cite the original or primary source by highlighting or coloring my citations?
Like when I use that paragraph from that other author or the other resource, do I need to highlight it or
no.
highlight that particular, the specific paragraph or whatever wording that I copied and pasted into my book review? Is it possible to highlight or
no highlighting? What you do? No. What you do is three ways. You quote, you paraphrase, or you summarize, and then you cite it. So if it is word for word, you want to copy this statement because it's really good, then you put it in your paper, put a quotation mark, and footnote it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Which we will it down the bottom.
Right, that's it.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'll show you an example of a final research paper later, so you have an idea how to do it. Okay?
So, okay, thank you.
All right. So self-plagiarism is also not allowed.
Okay.
Okay, why plagiarism matters? Plagiarism is a breach of academic integrity. It is a principle of intellectual honesty that all members of the academic community should acknowledge their debt to the originators of the ideas, words, and data which form the basis for their own work. And you know, at the college level, we're very lenient when it comes to plagiarism. Like I teach at a Bible college here in the Philippines, and I don't fail my students if I see they plagiarize. It's just that at that level, they're still processing, you know, their thinking process is still not that mature. Actually, according to psychology, the older we are, the better the thinking process. Because there's like hooks in our brain, like our experiences, our maturity help us to hook those ideas easily. If we are more, we are more advanced in age, you know, the older we are, the better our thinking process, the more we see things clearly, because you know we went through a life experience. And so those students here, you know, the older you are, actually, the better. So, but for college students, I'm not very strict. I tell them, okay, this is plagiarism. Next time you do this, you do that. But for graduate level, we have to be strict because we assume that you're already mature enough, mature enough to think critically and to engage your sources. Okay. So in APTS, as I said last time, you're only allowed 3 instances of plagiarized work, and then you will be kicked out. And then, you know, like what happened to that student who was graduating, he passed, but the grades, he was supposed to get an honor, you know, but his grade went, because of that one course only, his grades went down. So some teachers are you know, gracious, but they will give you low grades if they recognize that you did plagiarize. Okay.
That's good enough.
All right. Now, what about common knowledge? You know, some things you just know. You know, do I need to quote it if it's common knowledge? Do I need to reference it if it's common knowledge? Oh, sorry. Here's the thing. In every professional field, experts consider some ideas common knowledge. For example, the earth. No. Yeah, the earth revolves around the sun. Yeah, that's common knowledge. You don't need to quote that. You don't need to cite because that's a common knowledge. But for example, in the area of theology, ministry, and the Bible, we're not really that professional yet. Okay. In fact, we're just learning. We're students. So you are learning about the concepts in the course you're taking. So the material you're reading may not yet be common knowledge to you. Okay, for some who already graduated at the doctor level, they've published many books, those things are common knowledge to them. But for us, we're still starting, we're students, so those may not be common knowledge to us. And so we still have to quote, we still have to cite. In order to decide if the material you want to use in your paper constitutes common knowledge, you may find it helpful to ask yourself the following questions. Did I know this information before I took this course? If you did, no need to cite. It really came from you. You already knew it. You know? Did this information or idea come from my own brain? Okay. Actually, the professors will not be able to completely identify if we plagiarize. You know, we're not that great. We're not omniscient. We just want you to be honest, you know, to avoid plagiarism, be as honest as you can. Did it really come from you? Because if it did, then you are, with all honesty, you can say, oh, really, it came from me. But if you know in your heart and in your mind that you got the idea from someone else, then cite the source. Okay, it's just that, very easy, huh? Just be honest, you know, be honest and admit if it really came from you or it didn't. Okay, next. How can I tell whether I've plagiarized? So you need to cite your source even if you put all direct quotes in quotation marks. So if you put all word for word verbatim quotations in quotation mark, you have to put as footnote as well. You change the words used by the author into synonyms. You still have to cite. You completely paraphrase the ideas to which you referred. Still cite. Your sentence is mostly made up of your own thoughts, but contains a reference to the author's idea. You still have to cite. You mention the author's name in the sentence. Every time you mention an author's name, you have to cite. Okay, you have to cite. And of course, the golden rule, when in doubt, give a citation. Okay, all right. Any questions about plagiarism before we continue to Chicago to Arabian? Okay, no question. Good. Let's move on to the Chicago.
Sorry,
to
Laura.
Yes?
Laura, can I ask a question, please?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
I know you mentioned the footnotes. Is it the footnotes applies when there's a quotation information codes on any of the report?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that question?
You know, the footnotes. Okay, because you mentioned the footnotes. Is it only applied on any report once you use a quotation or a quote from any books?
QPS, quotation. When you quote, when you paraphrase, when you summarize.
Yeah.
And also when you are writing and then you remember that you got the idea from another author. Even if it's your sentence, you have to cite as well. You have to footnote.
So, okay, all right, thanks.
Okay. Before I go to Chicago to Arabian, I think it's good I'll show you an example of a final research paper. We're supposed to read this, but not today, at a different time, a different lecture time. I'm going to show you an example of a final research paper so you guys, have an idea what I'm talking about when I'm saying to quote, to cite, to footnote. Okay, here it is. Okay, can you see it? Okay, so we begin, of course, first with a cover page. So I gave the measurements here. This is the proper measurement, the spacing for cover page. Okay, the title, if you have a subtitle, you also write the subtitle. So this is a paper I wrote some time ago. The next page, so notice the cover page has no page number. The next page is the contents page or table of contents, but we just say contents. And then, of course, this is the content of the paper, page number. Still no page number here. Then we begin with the paper itself. This is the final research paper. You begin with an introduction, first level heading, then the background of the study, second level heading. I'm not going to read the paper. We're going to do this at another time. I just want to show you what a citation is about. This is the citation. Okay. So for example, this is the first paragraph of my introduction. In the ascendancy of Lucan scholarship, very little was said about the community's witness in relation to the mission of the church. Majority of studies on witness, which in Lucan definition is the proclamation and attestation of the Christian faith. Look at that footnote. Why? Because I got the idea from Alison Trites. Okay, her book, The New Testament Concept of Witness. Have been on apostolic preaching, for example, C.H. Dodd, and philological developments, for example, A.A. Trites. Footnote again. So here I included C.H. Dodd and then semicolon Trites. The same one. So this is the same source. So it's a shortened version of this one. Okay. Also, when dealing with the community in Acts, research has been predominantly done through a Pauline or proto-Catholic lens. Accordingly, Luke's own distinctive voice on this topic has not been heard accurately due to the previously rampaging suspicions of his credibility as historian-theologian. Fortunately, in the 1970s, the publication of I. Howard Marshall's work, Luke, Historian and Theologian, illuminated the tensions of this debate. Footnote. Okay, so this is what I mean by footnoting, referencing the source of your idea. Okay. So anyway, this is, I think I sent this, I uploaded this in your Moodle as well. So how do we footnote? What's the format for Turabian footnoting or Chicago Turabian footnoting? So let's go back to this discussion. So this is our main textbook for referencing our papers. Let me introduce you to Kate L. Turabian. So Kate Larimore Turabian was the graduate school dissertation secretary at the University of Chicago for nearly 3 decades. So that's from 1930 to 1958. She was also the editor of official publications for the university. So Kate Larimore met her husband, Stephen Turabian, in 1919 and began working at the university as a departmental secretary a few years later. In 1930, she became the university's dissertation secretary, a newly created position in which every accepted doctoral thesis had to cross her desk. It was there in 1937 that she wrote a small pamphlet describing the university's required style for writing college dissertations. So, Turabian's 1937 booklet reflected guidelines found in the 10th edition of the Chicago Manual of Style. So actually, our style really comes from the University of Chicago. So they have their own referencing style. They made their own style, and they called it the Chicago Manual of Style. It was a classic resource for writers and editors published by the Chicago Press. So at the present time, it is at its 17th edition. So if Kate L. Turabian has the 9th edition, theirs is now 17th edition. Okay, so the press began distributing Turabian's booklet in 1947 and first published it in book form in 1955 under the title A Manual for Writers of Term Papers, Theses, and Dissertations. So the Turabian Manual is a detailed guide to using Chicago style. So we are grateful to Kate L. Turabian for giving us an easier to read manual, because the Chicago style manual is over 1,000 pages. Can you imagine? You have to read an entire manual of 1,000 pages, and it's quite expensive. So the Turabian book that we have is the smaller version, easier to read, easier to understand version of the Chicago style. Okay? Many schools require students to use Turabian rather than the full Chicago style because of its relative brevity and ease of use. Now, for theology, for theology, usually we use the Chicago Turabian style. Another option is the SBL style, but we don't use it here in APTS. I know in AG US, Assembly of God Theological Seminary uses both the Turabian and SBL style. But here we don't want to confuse our students. Let's just stick to one, just the Turabian style. Okay. Other seminaries also use it. The Asia Graduate School, the consortium of 7 seminaries here in the Philippines, also use the Turabian style. So it's the accepted referencing style for theology and religion. Okay. So this is the book. I hope you have purchased it. So this is our book here. It has 3 parts. So part 1, guidelines for research and writing. Part 2, guidelines for citing the sources. And part 3, general style. Now, here are some important citation practices. Your first duty as a researcher is to cite the facts right. Your second duty is to tell readers where the facts came from. Hence, you must cite sources properly. Okay, so first duty, cite the facts right in your paper. Second duty, tell the readers where you got it. Okay, so that they can trace which books you use, which authors you use, and so on. Now, part 2, here are guidelines on citing sources. Actually, our focus for this course is chapter 16 and 17. Okay, chapter 16 and 17 gives the basic form of the notes bibliography style, and chapter 17 gives examples for citing specific types of sources. These 2 chapters are central to understanding the requirements of your paper. Chapters 18 and 19 are concerned with the author date style of citation. I don't want you to be confused. For Chicago Turabian, there are 2 styles of citing. The note style, which is footnote bibliography, and then the author date style, meaning author and then parenthesis date. We do not use the author date style. So you do not need to read chapter 18 and 19, so you don't get confused. Okay, you only focus on the note style, which is chapter 16 to 17. Okay, because if you Google it on the net, you'll find, oh, how come this is Turabian but the style is different? Because there are 2 styles. So the school will only use the first one, the notes style. Okay, APTS requires notes bibliography style. Do not use the guidelines of chapter 18 and 19. Okay, why note style? So the note bibliography style, also known as the notes style, is used widely in the humanities, religious studies, and in some social sciences. Author date style is used in most social sciences and in the natural and physical sciences. Okay, now here's a very important tip. In your paper, you must always have consistency. If you decide to use note style, use note style. Do not skip from one style to another. So anyway, since we are in the religious studies, you have to use notes bibliography style. Okay, here are some general formatting requirements. The length of the paper. Okay, the length of the paper does not include the cover page, appendices, or bibliography. Okay, most professors will provide specification for the length of paper. In general, it is 10 to 15 pages for graduate level students. So I actually asked you to write a final paper, which is how many pages? 12 to 15? Yeah, I think 12 to 15. Now, the 12 to 15 pages does not include your cover page, your table of contents and your bibliography. It's just your content, okay? Then you must follow the notes bibliography style. Papers and projects must use the notes bibliography style of citation. We require that you use footnotes. Choose a readable typeface, so the font should be Times New Roman. Avoid ornamental typefaces. All text size should be 12, size 12. Double space all text except block quotation, footnotes, and bibliography pages. Indent all paragraphs, 1 tab. It is your responsibility to review the guidelines set by each professor before you submit any assignments. What I'm teaching you is the default style. But if your teacher tells you to do something else, you have to follow your teacher. So guidelines set by professors always take precedence over the guidance provided here. So here are examples of Chicago to Arabian style. Oh, sorry, the note style citation. In the note style citation, you signal that you used a source by placing a superscript number at the end of the sentence, alarm, in which you quote it or refer to it. So for example, you say, by 1911, according to one expert, an Amazon was any woman rebel, which to a lot of people meant any girl who left home and went to college. Footnote. Okay, so the superscript number, that is reference number of the footnote. You then cite the source of that quotation in a correspondingly numbered note that provides information about the source plus relevant page numbers. Notes are placed at the bottom of the page called footnotes. So this would be the footnote version. If you cite the same text again, you can shorten subsequent notes like this. So the original footnote is this. This is the full citation. The shortened version in the next pages, if you cite it again, it'll be just the last name and the title and the page number. You also list sources at the end of the paper in a bibliography. This list includes every source cited and sometimes others you consulted but did not cite. It's called a bibliography. So a bibliography, you include all the sources you consulted, even if you did not cite it in the paper. For APTS, minimum bibliography is 12. Okay, 12 sources. So there should be a healthy mix of books and journals there, and other sources as well. Each bibliography entry includes the same information, but in a different form. Now, earlier you saw a footnote. This one is a bibliography. The difference is in a footnote, the author's first name comes first, then the last name. In a bibliography, the author's last name comes first, comma, then the author's first name. Okay. Here is an example. This is 17th Chicago or 9th Arabian style. So if you are citing a book in print with one author, so a book in print means this one, printed book, okay? And the book only has one author. This is how you cite the footnote. First name, and then last name, comma. Then the title of the book in italics, and then in parentheses, the place of publication, colon, the publisher, comma, the date of publication, close parenthesis, comma, page numbers, where you got the idea. Now in the next pages, if you're going to use the footnote again, you don't need to do the full citation. You just shorten it to this one. Just the last name, comma, shortened title. Earlier, you know, the title is long, shortened title, and then the page number. Now, this is footnote. In the bibliography, there's another style or format. This time, the last name comes first, comma, followed by the first name, period. In the footnote, it's all comma. In the bibliography, after a section, it's a period. And then the title of the book in italics, period. Notice no more parentheses. Okay, no more parentheses. The place of publication, colon, the publisher, comma, the year of publication, period. No more page numbers. So this is an example, okay? Now, what if there are 2 to 3 authors? If it's 2 to 3 authors, again, for the footnote, the first name first and the second author's name, okay? For the duplicate footnote, just the last names of the 2 authors, Choi and Peng. For the bibliography, then you start with the last name of the first author, comma, the first name, and now the second author, first name first, and then last name, period. Okay? Now, if it's 3 authors, this is just an example of 2 authors, then you put comma. So Susan P. Choi, comma, Yini Peng, comma, Laura Timenya, and Laura Timenya. Okay, so you just, the last one has the end. Okay, so this is book in print, 2 to 3 authors. What if it's 4 authors? It's 4 or more authors. You use what we call the Latin term et al. For the footnote only, okay? For the footnote, you say Barry. For example, this is the first name of the name of the first author, comma, et al. Meaning there are 4 or more authors, okay? And then the title of the book, etc. For duplicate footnote, the last name, comma, et al. But for the bibliography, you have to write down all the authors. Okay, so the last name of the first author, then the first name, comma, the first name of the second author, and then the last name, comma, first name of third author, and then the last name, comma, and first name and last name of the fourth author. Okay, so the et al. Is only used in the footnote. In the bibliography, you have to spell out all the authors. You have to name them. Okay. What if the book has an editor instead of an author? So no author, but there's an editor. Then you put ed, period. If it's 2 authors, 2 editors, eds. Okay, eds, this one. Okay. What if the book has an author plus an editor or a translator? So first you write the author, then followed by the editor. Okay, so author, sorry about that. Author, title of the book, comma, editor, Ed, Deidre, Shauna Lynch. Okay, but for the duplicate footnote, you just write the last name of the author. No need to put the editor. Okay, for the bibliography, it becomes last name of the author, then first name, period, title of the book, in italics, period, then you spell out ed. It becomes edited by. Okay, and then the editor. If it's a translator, you put trans and for the footnote, and then translated by in the bibliography. What if it's a book in print with an edition number? Well, just put the second edition. Okay, so this is the name of the authors. These are the names of the authors, the title of the book, comma, second edition. Now for the duplicate footnote, you don't need to put the edition, just the last name of the authors, the title of the book, and page number. For the bibliography, it's like this. After the title of the book, you put a period and then second edition. Okay, a single chapter in an edited book. So for example, there's a book with multiple authors, and then you just want to cite 1 chapter of that book. Okay, so you first write the name of the author of the chapter article, the title of the chapter. So because it's not the book title, it's a chapter title, it should be in quotation marks. In, and then this is the title of the book in italics, comma, the editor, name of the editor, this one, and then of course publication and page number. For the duplicate footnote, you will cite only the chapter author. So just the last name, the title of the article, and the page number. In the bibliography, So you will write the author, chapter author's last name and first name, period. And then in quotation, the title of the article, period. In, capital I, in the title of the book, comma, edited by, this is the editor, comma, page numbers of the entire chapter. So let's say 65 to 95. The chapter is pages 65 to 95, period. And then the publisher's information and the year published. Okay. Okay, next, an article in a print journal. So this would be a journal article like Asian Journal of Pentecostal Studies. Okay, well, you know what? Our time is up. I will not be able to discuss everything here. Let me see how long we have. Maybe I will continue the discussion next week and on Friday. It's just a brief discussion of the different formats here about EBID and so on. Okay, yeah, we're almost done. So I'm just giving you an idea of the formats. So for the article, by the way, there's a difference between print journal and online journal. For online journal, you have to include the DOI or the URL. If you are citing a source, one source in the same page, you have to use EBID. EBID or EBITDA means in the same place of. For example, this is the author. Sorry. So this is the author, title of the book. Then you cite the same source but different page. You use EBID, period, comma, page number. If you're citing the same source but the same page, just use EBID, no page number. Okay. Here are some sources that you don't need to cite in the bibliography: abstracts, pamphlets, and reports and reviews of published works or performances, newspaper articles, blog posts and comments, social media posts, interviews and personal communication, the Bible and other sacred works, well-known reference works like dictionaries and encyclopedias, public documents like the Constitution, visual arts and live performances. All of these do not appear in the bibliography. So meaning Bible verses only appear either in the text or in the footnote, not in the bibliography. Okay, that's it. That's all. So I'm not going to require you to memorize. Of course, you can't memorize it. But you have to familiarize yourself with the formats of, the citation format for footnote and bibliography for all forms of sources, which you can find in chapter 16, 17 of your book. If you don't have a copy of the book, ask the library to scan chapter 16 and 17 for you. Okay, they can do that. Your midterm exam will be about chapter 16 to 17 of Turabian's Manual for Writers. Okay, so your midterm exam. Okay, any questions? I think it's time. Yes, you can cite a personal interview in the footnote only. And there is a format for that. You can read it in chapter 17 of the book.
So these are all in the notes, hey?
Yes, it's all here, chapter 16 to 17. You can have it scanned by the librarian if you don't have a copy of the book. Your exam for midterm is chapter 16 to 17, so you have to be very familiar with how to cite different sources.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, good. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you on Friday. Okay, let's close in prayer. Oh, yes, Brian? Oh, no, I thought you were asking a question. Okay, let's close in prayer. Father, we thank you, God, for this time. Thank you for these students, Lord God, who is committed, Lord, to learning, to improving themselves, and to serving you to the best of their capabilities. So, God, bless them, Lord. Keep them safe, keep them healthy, and guide them in their tasks, Lord God, in their daily activities. We love you, Lord, and we give you all glory, honor, and praise. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
See you
God
on
bless you
Friday.
all.
God
Thank
bless.
you.
God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bless you, Laura.
God bless.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
See you.
See you. God bless.
God bless you.
Bless you all.
Gracias por.
Ja, så vi får med det fjärde.
Ja, många pjöp.
God bless you.
Well,